Okay, here it is. I am live now, it looks like. Believe I am live. There's a little pulsing light at the bottom. It says live up here. Okay, I see the clock is ticking. Time is ticking away. The moments that make up a dull day, all that stuff. I'm, I'm coming here live tonight. I haven't come to Flux 369 in a while because I have this other channel that I do on YouTube most of the time now. And I'll just mention it briefly on here what the channel is, plug it, I guess, or something to you. You probably know about it already, but it's called Normalcy. I don't think it will spell right or even show up here worth of crap, but maybe it will. All right, there you can see. I'm getting it a little closer, but it's called Normalcy, and it's on YouTube. You can just look it up if you want to see that channel. That's a more current one that I do. But I got busted last week. I put an image briefly for about a second or 2 seconds that was of a very famous photograph from the Vietnam era, 1963 in Vietnam protests. The Buddhist monks were protesting the government there with good reason because they had been very oppressive towards the Buddhist people, and which made up 90%, almost 90% of the Vietnamese people at that time. These were the guy that was in charge then. Anyway, not to get into all the politics, but yeah, it's history now. Diem, and he was assassinated just a few months after that. Diem, and then John F. Kennedy assassinated in America a few later, a couple of weeks after that. So that all happened in 1963, and that picture is of a Buddhist monk who was set on fire. They poured kerosene, gasoline on his body, and then he was lit afire and match, whatever it was, and it lit him on fire. And the picture was taken in black and white. It was a very famous photograph. It went around the world, and it was in all the newspapers, and all the images was on television also, showing the actual footage, the video footage of somebody had taken the film of it, and then the picture of it that became famous. And that photograph I've had for many years. And when I look at it, I don't think about burning myself or about that there would be anything to be gained by burning oneself up, except you would die painfully, excruciatingly painfully, I'm sure. And what a way to die, would not be one of my chosen ways. If I was told I had to pick a way to die, that would not be on my list really of ways that I would want to end my life. But anyway, enough being said about that. Why they banned it, I don't know. It's a thing against self-harm, as if by me putting that image on for a couple seconds, it went by the screen. There were a lot of other different images, pop culture poster images, so some sexy looking women, some weird looking rock stars, different images of color and artwork that was done by someone else for a magazine cover or album cover or something. And so I'm going along these with some background music, and it just happens to capture that image, a little bit of the top part of it, of the monk and the flames coming off his head. That was also later used as an album cover for Rage Against the Machine. It is it's history, and that happened to my channel a couple of years ago before I started the Normalcy channel. I started that in June 14th, coming up 2 years. 2 years ago, June 14th, I started this channel, and it's been more successful getting more subscribers. A lot of them are non-American. Majority are non-American, like 90% or more, or non-English speaking, what you would call normally English speaking countries, where it's the number one language. But it is spoken, obviously, in a lot of these countries, somewhat to some degree, but mostly Asian countries, and almost all Asian countries, to be honest, except for a few, locally, Canada and Mexico, but they're kind of down lower. The Asian countries have, for some reason, discovered my channel because of one video that's got about 28 million views now, over 100,000 likes, 100,000 comments. I mean, it just blows my mind that so many people took such an interest in this one video that I don't take any credit for really at all. I mean, the only thing I take credit for is I paired up the video image. It's very short. It's not even 15 seconds long, with a different clip of music that was not in the original and in the film. I lifted it from a film called The Holy Mountain from 1973, I believe. And Alejandro Jodorowsky, um, you know, did not make a lot of feature length movies, but the like dozen or so he made, yeah, it was just a little clip from that film, The Holy Mountain, and it stirred up a lot of interest online from a lot of people for various reasons. A lot of people taking it very literally that it's a depiction of depravity towards human being, where birds would be coming outside of a man's chest. How could that be possible? How could all these birds have been in there, festering and eating on his guts, or what's going on? You could go through your mind and come up with a lot of different ideas, possibilities, what you think that represents the birds coming out of the guy's chest. If you haven't seen it, just look it up. It's the number one short video that I've posted. And I think, you might have a reaction to it. You'd want to post something like that. I would say that's up to you. The site that I have, I'm going to just go to it right now quickly and get the information that you would need to find it in case you want to see it. Because now that I've talked about it for a minute or so, you might want to see it. It's called This is it again. I'll show it one more time. See the birds? They just keep coming out of his chest, right? A bunch of them. It's kind of creepy and horrifying in a way. Look, people are taking pictures of it. The soldiers are trying to keep them back, keep them away. Okay? So, and I'm playing a song that was popular in the 1960s, early, mid 1960s, by the Trashmen. Just one hit wonder. It wasn't even a very good song, just saying the bird, the bird, bird, the bird is a word over and over and over. And I just thought it'd be funny to put that little bit of that track from that song. I didn't get permission from either one. I didn't make a penny off this video. If I had done something creatively, like I had created the video myself originally, then I would have stand to made now about close to $30,000 off of the YouTube video that I posted that got that many views. Because it's estimated like for every every million views that you get, you can earn something like $1,000 per million views. So with mine hitting 28 million, that earned me 28,000, let's say, which would be okay. It was kind of my goal a couple of years ago to make something like 30,000 a year on YouTube videos. Now I understand how to do it theoretically, but now coming up with another viral video that'll get 28 million hits, that's a challenge. Me not being a real filmmaker, but I do know how to combine sometimes videos with different song tracks in a way that I won't take full credit for. It's not like I'm doing anything special. I'm more just like allowing the pairing of a certain audio track and a video track to come about, and often with pretty good results. I think anybody can do this. I don't think it's unique, and I'm doing anything special at all. I'm not. It's just you pick a video, a clip of a video that you want. You pick a different song track, but you just allow yourself to be guided almost, I want to say, instinctively, intuitively, not in a more rational, thought out process of trying to sit down and analyze and think about, what might fit, what kind of song would fit good here. You just let the sources that you have around you be your guide, and you utilize any. If you need to do a little hooking up, setting up to get a source, connect to a deck, a CD player, a digital player, a turntable, anything, you get your video source close to that where you can play the music of your choice. And I've done it in the most simplest way, from just taking a CD song and recording part of it onto a camcorder video that I made with 8mm. recorded a video, but I made it the same length of the song, exactly the same length of the song. So later when I dubbed in the song track over the video, it would always be uncanny that there would be a couple of times in the video it would look like the song was just made for that video. It was playing something out that acted out something, something that's describing something in the song, whatever it is. It matched up with the video in a way. This was really interesting. And I have found that to be the case to this day. I've been able to make these little videos like that where that'll happen oftentimes. Sometimes it's very subtle and you might not pick up on it and other person down the street might not. But there are things that I notice, and I figure if I notice it, somebody else probably notices it if they watch it enough times. Some of the videos you need to watch a couple times. You're not going to maybe get it the very first viewing. You might watch it 2 or 3 or 4 times and then it'll click or something in that video and in that music that really synced up and went together and just seemed to go together perfectly. I don't know how to else to say it, folks, but that's the thing you can do. I'm glad I brought some water here because I'm getting a dry mouth, but I'm just open to anybody that's out there. If there's anybody out there, nobody yet's rung in, or is there one person here gave a whatever? Okay, I'm trying to keep up with the little deals that tell you if somebody's listening or if you have a comment, you can leave a comment. I'm looking for that possibility down there. Chat, I guess it's called. So I'll just stay on here for a little while, just because I got the Jones from not doing my regular YouTube. And it's not like I need to be on the YouTube screen a lot anymore. I don't like to be that much. I'd rather just make the videos that I post and let that be it. That's what I do on the other channel on Normalcy. I do a movie review sometimes on there and just an occasional quirky thing once in a while. But mostly I stick to making the clips from movies with usually the original soundtrack. I don't change that too often. But when I do, like I did for that Bye Bye Birdie, it just went crazy. And so attracted, for some reason, a lot of people subscribe to your channel when they go on and see something like that. But I wouldn't do it myself. I have gone on and seen one video and then looked at that person's web, their YouTube page or whatever, and checked it out and sort of looked over a rough overview of all of their videos, scan down and see what kind of videos they make. And then I make a decision if I want to subscribe to them or not. And maybe many times I do that. In this case, I was overstating it. It got almost 1,000 comments, but 165,000 likes. This is the Bye Bye Birdie video. And right now it's currently sitting up there at the highest one that I've seen on YouTube by anybody in quite a while. When I look at YouTube videos, I don't see very many of them that get 28 million views. But like I say, again, does me no good to make money. I can't make money off something like that. They won't allow you, number one. You can't go on there and get paid for somebody else's creativity. So if anybody would get money out of it, if there was ever such a deal, it would be the filmmaker. I'd have to get the money to Mr. Jodorowsky and the trash men, the ones who made the song and the video. And I'd be fine with doing that. I wouldn't expect myself to get paid for it because I don't think I created anything unique there that anybody else couldn't have easily done just as well. Maybe even done it better. Maybe the clip would match the video, or the video would be a few seconds longer. Maybe it'd somehow be better. I don't know. But once I achieved a level of that many views, I thought I'm never going to get a video that many again. So I just kind of laugh about it and don't think too much about it. Otherwise, I was noticing the subscriber level. It just took off like crazy. I only had like about 2,000 back in December last year. And now it's 6 away. It's like the countdown. It's 6 away from hitting 47,000 subscribers. Whatever that means. I really don't think most of the people out there are watching in my videos on a regular basis. Probably wouldn't understand me. They're not, up on English a lot. Wouldn't understand me anyway. But might get value out of some of the videos that don't have necessarily any speaking in it at all of any kind. more just action scene with music, explosions. I put videos like that on there just because they're fun to look at. There's no other reason. I don't have any big desire to promote violence or explosions or gunfire or any of that crap. You know, don't not into that. That's not my intent in putting those videos out. But violent films is part of Americana. American culture is rooted in violence. You don't have to go back. Well, you do have to go back, but you go back a couple hundred years, which is all the history of America is. You know, not even 300 years yet, and we've got lots and lots of violence in our history across the board, across the country. How the country was started initially, the violence towards all the indigenous people, the violence about with slavery, the violence toward immigrants that came to this country with hopes of finding a better life and finding that they were just put at the bottom of the shit pile, stepped on and crushed, you know, for long periods of time. Asian people very horribly treated that way. Same with people from south of the border, the Hispanic people, all from South America, Central America, on treated with a lot of resistance at times, a lot of prejudice. You know, it goes without saying, African American Black people, uh, they've had the worst. You know, I guess you'd have to say treatment. Although I mean, the Native Americans obviously genocide. That's in many ways worse than any, but it's all terrible. And then our own Civil War, you know, nearly 1 million Americans dead in that cause, mostly happening from infections and things, and not actual battlefield bullet to the heart and killing you instantly. People didn't die that quickly, and it was horrible time for the country to go through, and the many years after. And so America goes on to this day. So I've seen it in my generation in the '60s. You know, well, the World War I and World War II. Of course, the United States very much involved in both those wars, different points in time than all the other countries were. But I mean, we got involved in both of them eventually and helped turn the tide. Our country, so significantly, America became a military power in the world, superpower from then on, from the '50s and '60s. When I grew up, it was already the superpower of the world. I grew up in the '60s, really, is the time I remember, because, you know, born in the middle of the 20th century, 1951. The '60s was my age of 10 to 20, the time you really start waking up a little, realizing that the world's not all about you and your little games and kids stuff. There's a big world out there you start discovering, learning about, and listening a little bit more to the adults, paying attention and overhearing things that are kind of interesting. Some things are not as interesting. A lot of things I would hear in the news didn't interest me at all, but others things did. And along the way, the ones that did were the ones I paid the most attention to most of the time, wanted to know more about. But our resources of learning information back then were so limited compared to now. You know, you had newspapers that we got on a daily basis, local papers kind of thing, and the television news network and local, which were very, very small in number and the amount of information compared to today. Very tiny, small amount window of information coming that you could try to think about everything that you heard on the news that happened, digest it, I suppose, in your mind as to whether it has a direct impact on you. Most of the time, it won't, but occasionally it does impact all of us. You know, news events about the assassinations in the '60s, not to mention many other very impactful news stories that happened, but the assassinations themselves, when they were reported in the news, it's almost like a bullet hits us. Like we get that sniper's fire. We get struck suddenly in our mind with this horrible news that we have to process almost quickly and think about what did I just hear happen? Were you kidding me? And now your mind wants to know more. How did it happen? Who did it? Why? And those things were never answered. Not with John F. Kennedy's assassination, the whole cover up with the Warren Commission, just so bogus. And even today, there's just been discredited by so many people. It's just it smacks as bad as almost it's the same with the government keeping marijuana, cannabis classified in Schedule 1 through the DEA scheduling of illicit drug substances. And this still kicking that around, talking about that today. That's a huge one. The federal government can learn from the states and get this one done right, straighten it out, clear up so many things right now that are still issues and problems for these people that are in this trade, this industry. It's been now sanctioned and condoned and accepted. In the states where it's being used, nothing at all really bad has come of it that was predicted early. Nothing to warrant stopping it. I mean, it's working, and people are getting revenue from it. It takes the criminal element out of a desire for something that I would say most people, but a huge number of people, would rather have use cannabis than alcohol. But they might use alcohol, but just because of the legality. Once you take the legality thing out, now it's legal. Well, of course, they're going to take cannabis. It's a much better substance if you just like to get relaxed and yeah, not to say numb your consciousness a little, but it does. It dulls you a little bit, slows you down. It can be stimulating at the same time, but ultimately it's more of a depressant effect that it has on the nervous system, not a stimulating one necessarily that much. But I mean, alcohol is the same way. It's a depressant, so people don't take it. They can get it feeling a stimulating effect again, just same as with cannabis. But the overall trend with it over the long haul is that normally it has more sedating effect, and I think that's why a lot of people use it. They have anxiety issues or whatever, and cannabis helps them cope with their anxiety in a way that alcohol might also, but they prefer the cannabis choice over the alcohol, which I'd be with that crowd because I gave up alcohol myself 35 years ago and have not really missed it at all. I get quite a bit, derive still quite a bit more enjoyment using different cannabis products and mostly just edibles. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. Didn't get anybody really chatting in, so it's probably not a very good time to do a live feed, but I just like to get on here and say something about something every now and then let it go at that. It's just my little contribution or whatever. Try not to be on this soapbox of criticizing things so much, but there are some things that need to be straightened out in this country. Should have been a long time ago. Federal government getting the marijuana classification, that just should have. It's a no-brainer. It's just dumb politics that they've been hung up on it this long. Should have been done back when Nixon started the whole thing, because that's what his people that did the study recommended. They do that. They decriminalize it and just get out of this prosecution of people. It's not what you thought it was. They did a really lengthy, long, in-depth study, the most in-depth one that had ever been done at that time, based on findings and conclusions from other studies previous and their current studies. And they put it all together after years of studying, concluded that marijuana was not really the big problem and it should be decriminalized. And Nixon just threw that away. That was a fact. Jimmy Carter tried to bring it back when he got in, but he wasn't in long enough to be that effective with it to really accomplish anything along those lines. And when Reagan came in, Reagan went on national TV not long after becoming president and it's on live television one night, one of his live broadcasts. I actually happened to watch it. And he came out and said that marijuana is the single most dangerous drug in America today. It must be stamped out. I mean, the rhetoric was so much like Reefer Madness era of the 30s when they came out with all this propaganda against it. Again, it was all racially done. It was all to suppress the influx at the time of Mexican migrant workers that were coming in, that were doing jobs Americans didn't want then. But they were willing to do a lot of the work at that time, and it was a way for them to get in the country and try to, set up a life here. And so they did. And a lot of them, when they came in, they brought marijuana with them because that was a preferred method of enjoyment, relaxation after a hard day's work, or for some of them might even help them work. It goes on to this day. People use it to work. They think a lot of them do it because they think they work better. Whether they actually do or not, that's another whole thing. But they think it helps them work, helps them. I did it for many years. At most of my jobs for over 40 years, I was high as much as I could be at work every day in various forms, different ways. And I think many people in America do that in their jobs. They get high and they work because they can work still effectively, but they just enjoy their work more. It doesn't impede them being a good worker. Sadhguru's question about would you want your airplane pilot to getting high before he flies? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't mind him doing it later If he does it, I think that's fine, acceptable. But I'd prefer he didn't do it before the flight. Same with the brain surgeon. If he's doing brain surgery, I don't care if he does it, but I just wouldn't want him doing it while he's working on my brain. And I think that's fair. Same with a cab driver. But for myself driving, I'll take that risk because I know I'm actually a better driver when I've had a little bit of cannabis in me. I'm not talking about being really high, really stoned, but a little bit, just a little bit. It makes me calmer, makes me drive slower. I don't get riled by other people, get upset, do anything foolish. I stick to what I know is right with the right behavior and etiquette of the road and the laws, the rules, especially obey all the traffic rules that are out there. And so I'm a better driver. Um, if I haven't had any cannabis, I may equally be just as good a driver. It's very likely I probably would be still, but there's a slight more tendency for me to react to other people, overreact, than when I have cannabis. I tend not to be as reactive. I tend to be much more mellow, absorb the hit, as you will take that meaning, to say, hey, if somebody inflicts something on me, does something unsafe, dangerous, foolish, I should not overreact to that. Instinctively say, I'll have to do something back to them. No, that is definitely not the right course of action. Better to just evaluate what took place and what, if anything, needs to be done. But most of the time, I would say nothing. Just need to let it go. It's the smart way. All right. Well, all of you out there, if you have tailgaters and you get those from time to time, just remember you're in front, you're in control. That's what I tell myself. I'm in control here. And I am going the speed limit right now, but I'm not going to go over it any. I'm going to stick pretty much to what speed I'm going. If that person behind me really needs to get around, then they will find a way around. That is incumbent on them, not on me, to provide that. I don't even have to pull over, signal and pull over and wait and let them go by. You can do that, of course. Sometimes recommended on a mountain road thing. But in regular city traffic, I wouldn't try to do that. I would just keep, going the speed limit. And eventually they usually want to turn. What I found most of the time they tailgate because they're getting so close to their turn. They just want to make that turn so bad, and you're just kind of going slower than they want to go. I think that's what it is. I'm trying to think back, did I ever tailgate people? I really didn't. I'm not much of a tailgater. I always felt like it was dumb because much more likely I'm going to ram into them, if I'm really close behind them. And I know other people don't like it because I don't like it. So I just never have done it to other people. And it baffles me that so many people do it and don't seem to realize they're being rude and unsafe, both. But beyond that, also they're being aggressive. They're trying to somehow put pressure that look at me, I'm right up your butt here. And they are literally, they're sniffing your exhaust. And I've gotten tense and overreactive at times. Sometimes I even do things, that really aren't recommended, like tapping the brake and something like that to try. And my message always is it's slow down, back up, but that's never how it's received, I guess. They take it as a sign of aggression if you do that, a passive aggression or whatever. So I think just continuing to go drive the way you want to drive and not pay attention too much to the tailgater is what I found is best. Just not pay attention. And eventually they will turn off, I think the only times it'll ever turn into something like a tit for tat and escalate into something else, where I've had people actually pull around me and then get really slow in front of me and make me go slow behind them, even slower, maybe just crawling. And you don't know what to make of these kind of situations if people take it personally and let it get out of hand and start doing something that can be very foolish on the road. So I don't recommend that to anybody. Don't do road rage. It's not good for anybody, and don't do it. Don't do it. I don't do it anymore. I never wanted to ever do it. Only times I engaged with it was I was stupid and let other people pull me into it, and that was on me. So that was my fault. I can't blame the other person. Okay, enough. Adios. Good night, friends. I'm ending the stream. Here we go.